Hello, wonderful, lovely people. Today's event is discussing this work of fiction called Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. It's a book that is, in a sense, a retelling of the Mahabharata from a different POV or a point of view. The POV here is that of Draupadi or Panchali, or as the book likes to call her, Krishna. So, note this book is a retelling, and I will quote something that Chitra talks about in the book, which is stories gain more power with retelling. So, this is it. This book is not an effort to rewrite the Mahabharata. This book is not an effort to do anything with the Mahabharata. It is just what is referred to as feminist literature, or looking at existing literature with a fictional different POV. That said, let's welcome Supriya, my lovely co host today, to talk about this book. Supriya, your initial thoughts or your overall vibe with the Palace of Illusions, because I think, as far as feminist literature goes, this one does a very good job in not punching down on anything that's not a woman. In my opinion. So, what's your take?
Hi everyone. First of all, apologies for starting the event a bit late, but I'm so glad to see a lot of you tuning in. And I think it speaks volume about how amazing Viniti's community is. So I would like to welcome you all, and I hope you enjoy the conversation that we are about to have. Palace of Illusion, I have to admit, I read it last year. Actually, it was exactly last year. There were a few changes that I was going through around the same time. And reading this book, so I picked this book randomly because if you would have heard me last time, well, in the last week's event, I did say that sometimes I judge books by their cover. So this one, if you've seen the cover of this book, it's one of the prettiest covers, right? It's like this emerald green with the Jaipur Palace, City Palace ka front view and things like that. So, and of course, I'd heard a lot about this book. This book is very, very popular. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just pick this book up. I was in a very, very beautiful place. It's Solon. It's in Himachal. So we had gone on a friends group retreat kind of a thing, and I picked this book up. I could not put it down. There came a point, and I think ardent readers would probably relate. There came a point where we were being rushed for dinner, and I was like, why are these people around me? I need to finish this book. I need to read this book. Sometimes books take you on a different tangent. But the vibe of this book was exactly what you said. It spoke from a feminist point of view without really punching in the air ki, listen to me, I'm a woman, dekho, without playing the woman card. It did not speak about, मेरे साथ कितना बुरा हुआ, उसके साथ कितना बुरा हुआ. It did not speak about the obvious flaws or the positives that Mahabharata as the mythology has. What it spoke about was a woman's perspective on things that are happening, the love, the sadness, the grief, the celebration, because it also speaks about if you remember a few of the excerpts or a few of the points where she also talks about how she is being celebrated or how she's being loved by people around her. So I was amazed at reading this book, and then I was really happy with how the author wrote the perspective as well. So soon after reading this, I immediately went on to reading a next book, which was, I think, The Last Queen, but we'll speak about that some other time. So yeah, that is what I felt. And I'm happy to see Ritu in the listening panel as well. Very glad to see her. But yeah, that is what I thought about the book.
I absolutely agree. I am reminded of this quote from the book, uh, which says, I said, with the confidence of the untested. I mean, when we talk about feminist lit, there is this vibe of, I suppose, anger with the world, very understandable anger with the world. And then you have the author writing something like this from the POV of the lead character who's a woman. It's like, yes, thank you for acknowledging that even in our most powerful moments we feel so much, I suppose, uh, anxiety around what's happening, and we know that we are in a place that technically we were not supposed to be in, but then we are here, and it's absolutely all right. We are here because of each other, and we are here because of the grace of uh, people who came before us, right? So a very simple gentle line which tells you where the author is coming from, a place of discussion, I suppose. So when we talk about Draupadi or Panchali, I think one thing, the names itself are such a good show don't tell example. Kunti, for example, her real name is Pritha, whereas this is from the OG stuff, not from Chitra's book. But then she's always called Kunti because she's daughter of Kunti Bhoj. Something similar happens to Draupadi, or daughter of Draupad, or daughter of Panchal. Uh, just the name alone tells you a societal story. You don't have an identity, your identity is part of the collective. And this is the narrative that is at play. And when you come from that place and you have these powerful characters, male as well as female, doing their things in the universe, I think one of the best things I enjoyed about the book, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Supriya, is how she describes Kunti. I'm like, this is something that even I wondered when I was a teenager, that how is she controlling five grown men and being like lovable and adorable and fluffy? I think these two things can't coexist. You can't be someone who controls people and then also be someone who is intrinsically nice. Controlling people requires a lot of manipulation and a lot of withholding affection. You cannot control people with kindness. And every retelling I had seen of the Mahabharata, portrays Kunti and all of these other female characters as nice, kind, lovely ladies. And I'm like, that is not possible. That is absolutely not possible. You can't be someone who is powerful, realistically speaking, someone who is this controlling and be nice. And I really appreciated the fact that this is highlighted in the book. Again, this is not a non-fiction book, this is a retelling. So there you go. Also, if anyone wants to join the live, feel free to raise your hands and we will call you on the stage. In case you waste our time on things like that, I will demote you. So yes, raise your hands if and only if you have something to say. No promotions allowed. I'm allowing Abhishek Jaiswal. Abhishek, do you have anything to say about the book? The unmute button is in the bottom right of the screen. Let's hear from you when you are ready. So, your vibe on Kunti or characters like her, Supriya, if you could unmute and share.
So I agree with what you said. Growing up, you heard the story, and this isn't any spoiler, so I can say it, where the fable goes as Arjun got married to Draupadi and he brought her to her new home. And without looking, Kunti said that whatever you have, divide it. And that's how she got married to the Pandavas. And my immediate question was, like, why didn't Arjun or anyone say ki, look who I married, or see I've married someone? Like, why would someone say कि देखो देखो मैं क्या लेकर आया हूँ? Like ऐसे कोई surprise party थोड़ी ना है. That is what my thought process was growing up, right? And of course, you know कि ये this is like a retelling of a story, and there's a big unlearning that I've done is stories are simplified version of a very complex history, and it makes sense, right? जो हमें स्टोरी बताई जाती है that's not the same linearity जिससे history actually happened. So then I was thinking of, okay, there's this woman who's like, of course, Kunti is portrayed as like, the epitome of sacrifice and all those things, and which makes sense, but it's not possible for a woman who's struggling so much, who's gone through so much, to not be flawed by it or to not be bitter about something. And this book portrayed that, which I was like, thank God someone's written it from a different perspective. Of course, people have a lot of questions around Kunti, Draupadi, because we question the whole idea of how can women do something? How can women have children before marriage? How can a woman be married to multiple people? This is like Draupadi is the only example I can think of in Indian mythology that shows polygamy, right? And like we are completely okay to talk about, and I'm not trying to start a debate here, but it's a fact that we know ki like Krishna Bhagwan ki 108 wives thi, and there's a story around it, but Draupadi having 5 husbands is a huge question, and you don't have many polygamy examples there as well. Not defending, not questioning anything there, but I liked how this book showed the grace of every single character, and I think you'd agree with that as well, right? Like even Draupadi herself, like when she talks about her perspective and all, when she reflects on things, when she talks about literally the palace of illusion, and when she talks about how she may have mistreated a few people, it's that self-reflection that you see. It almost feels like you're reading like a diary that she would have probably written towards the end of her life, maybe. But that's the vibe that I got from the book.
The vibe I get is I think this is her reflecting on her life while they are doing that final climb. Once they hear about what has happened to in Dwarka and what has happened to Krishna, they are like, "We are done. Let's ascend or descend, whatever works." And they decide to forego life and they go on this journey, right? And the way it is written in this book, I mean, I don't agree with the end. I know people love the ending. I'm not a fan of the ending per se, but I'm fan of the things that she thinks about with the ending, and that kind of gives you a clue as to maybe this is the POV that is being inspired, right? Maybe this is what we are seeing. We are seeing her reminisce about her life. And I'm drawing a parallel to another one of my favorite books, which is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. The book begins on Achilles' grave, and from a history POV and from like a mythology POV. Um, Achilles wanted his ashes merged with those of Patroclus, and his son didn't allow that. And this is a premise that is pretty well known, right? But then when we read the book, this is not exactly stated as is. But then you gently realize it is not Patroclus remembering his life, it is Achilles' mother who is sitting right next to him, drawing these memories out of him. So I think something similar is at play with how Chitra has written this thing, where the ending, where it's implied that Krishna and Krishna talk to each other, right? Draupadi and Krishna talk to each other, I suppose. And this is Krishna drawing out Draupadi's memories for her, making her kind of realize that when you are in many ways uh, the daughter that was born, when the son who was promised by prophecy brought a daughter who would change the world, so to speak. So I think this is the way the book shapes up. It is us seeing her memories viewed with the wisdom of age, right, rather than a journal. This is my interpretation, because many of the things that Draupadi realizes, I mean, you have been young, Supriya, you are young. I'm 29. I think you are in the under 30 bracket, just like me. We are so stupid still. And we were stupider before it was under 25, and stupider before it was under 20, right? So, some of the things, the way the framing is done and everything, I don't think that is a young woman's thought. I think that's a woman who has thought through life thoughts. So, that was my interpretation.
Exactly, my interpretation as well. And maybe this isn't the best analogy, but well, I'm just sharing something that happened personally. So we do like a biannual self-reflection, all right? And I was just thinking about the things that I have done in the last 6 months, from January to June. And in just 6 months, I was like, okay, why did I pick up this project in January? Or like, why didn't I complete it? Or I could have done so much better. And this is like just a 6 months old reflection. So, like, for people who've not read the book, I would really, encourage you to read it. It doesn't matter which gender you are, which religion you belong to. It's just about reading a perspective of a person who literally saw the biggest story that's been told again and again and again and again. And I know there's a big conversation around retelling popular history and popular stories, and what is the right way to say it, like the movie that has just come out last week, right? We won't get into that because this is not a movie review event. But what you said, it really feels like a reflection of a older woman. And you would feel that if you would have like spoken to your grandparents, your grandmothers especially, like how they would talk about their childhood, and they will pick up incidents, and they'll pick up memories that made them happy or that made them extremely sad. And often you realize that their recollection of their story is different from someone else who's probably lived the same story. Like, it's not important that the same history moment or the same canon event that would have triggered one person's story is same for another person. It's also not necessary that one event created the same emotion for everyone. Like, I remember one of the when she talks about the ending, like you mentioned, right? It was a little unnerving for me as well, because I was like, I don't think I agree with it. And then I questioned, do I not agree with it because it doesn't sound correct to me, or do I not agree with it because it questions the story that I have known all my life? Or does it not sit well with me because, no, this is a good person and I have to believe that the ending adds a bit another shade of gray to her character? So that is also why I like reading books. It's nice to read history fiction. It's nice to read and challenge your perspective on stories that you've known, and like, कि भाई ये सही है, ये गलत है. But often you realize that what lies in between that is like where all of us are, which is the gray area, right?
Absolutely. And I think from a psychological POV, this book uses the halo effect and the horn effect very well. These are parts of the magnificent cognitive bias family, where, say, for instance, you have worked with Supriya and you know Supriya, and you have had the best experience working with her because she's truly kind, takes the best notes, has excellent work ethic, and you are like, Supriya is someone I can rely on. And now you meet Supriya's friend Pinati, and you're like, Arey, Supriya's friend, she probably is like Supriya. So that is the halo effect. I can be the opposite of Supriya, but then the first time you meet me, it's her effect, the impression made by the subject that affects your interpretation. Similarly, there's the horn effect, where someone cruel, messed up, annoying, say someone like Duryodhan, for instance, and you become their friend, say Karna. By association, you are assumed to be just like the evil character, even though there is evidence about you not being that. By association alone, you are branded as good or bad. And this book deals with this very nicely, in my opinion, by preparing two camps, right? Align with good and you are good, align with evil and you are evil. And then it very kind of subtly tells you that, अरे real world में ऐसा नहीं होता है. The real world is much grayer and much more obscene. Supriya, can you raise your hands? I think you have gone down to the listening stage, or is Linky the Pinky glitching? No, you're back. Fantastic. So, I think fantastically pointed out by you that this book uses the concept of binarity very smartly by show don't telling, the fact that binarity does not lead to good storytelling. Binarity is kind of not how it works in fictional world also, and also real world. On to one of my, rather than me sharing my favorite, let me ask you one of your favorite, I suppose, moments from the book, or what to you was something that was so interesting as an event, a character, how it was interpreted. Share your favorite moment, event from the book, Supriya, if you so desire.
So, I don't remember an exact moment because I didn't read the book, reread it, and this makes me think of what Aniket says: कि reread your favorite books. It helps you remember the story more strongly. But I can share the vibe that I felt. So, the ending, right? It was like this wasn't a thriller or this wasn't a mystery novel that would have a lot of twists and turns or things like that, but the ending left me with a lot of emotions. I was perplexed, I was questioning my perspective. I was like, ho sakta hai, kind of a thing. I did not hate it, I'll be honest. It did make me think of, could this have really been possible? Which again, I did not dive a lot into, but I would pick up the ending as my top moment from the book. And sorry, when she explains ye Maya hai, the palace of illusion, when she explains what she means by it, I know books are supposed to. I like books that make, how do I say, who, or like, if the story does justice to the title, I like that. So I don't like titles like जो हमारी बचपन की books होती थी, the Fab Five. So I know it's about them. I also don't like songs which have no relation to the title, like Bullet, and does not have a single word of bullet in it. Oh, I don't like those kind of songs. I like when the story or the storytelling does justice to the title, and there couldn't have been a better justice done to this Palace of Illusion one. I'm pretty sure that's one of your favorite moments too. But
It
please
is,
tell
it
me.
is 100% because the description of my it's there's this wonderful movie which in my opinion has great script writing called The Babadook, and in the book we see this extremely sorry, in the movie we see this extremely harangued woman who is dealing with a child with learning disabilities. It's pretty clear, and she's dealing with a lot of trauma as well. And throughout the book they keep showing us sorry, throughout the movie they keep showing us, is she being haunted or is she just exhausted that her mind is playing tricks on you? The choice is left to you, right? And that is something similar as what Chitra has done. Maya Kajal, Maya is someone who comes up with these elaborate things that you desire, right? In the case of the Pandavs, it was a palace, a wonderful palace, and Maya delivers it. But then Maya always exacts a cost, and you are often left wondering as you stare at the grandeur in front of you, is this real or is this not real? And then when it all comes crashing down at some point, because anything that you pay a price for, when we talk about a barter system of this sort, it is going to come crumbling down. The way it is dealt with in the book, right? Did it go away because of magic and mysticism, or did it go away because of loyalty of the people who support the Pandavas? Such a brilliant depiction, in my opinion. I like how she uses Draupadi to, and the way Draupadi talks to herself to trick us into coming to this. So I think this could be a great place to get Ritika. I hope I didn't get your name wrong, Ritika Bhattacharya, to join the
Yes,
conversation.
hi.
Hello.
Hi, hello, am I audible?
You are perfectly audible, Ritika.
Hello, first of all, I want to greetings everybody listening. So I have been a great fan of Chitra here. So since we're discussing one of my favorite works of her, so I just want to share that, like, as Supriya ma'am said, like, or Vinati ma'am said, the favorite moment of the book. So, what I want to point out is that how beautifully the like in this retelling, we see that Draupadi shares her relations with all five of her husbands. Like, we see five complex human emotions. We see the bond she creates with all five of her, and that is depicted beautifully by the Chitra ma'am in the book. Is one of my favorite moments. Like, it's very raw and real. It was not all hunky dory in all the five scenarios, that it's all like, beautiful and paradise thing. We could see all kind of human emotions, which everybody at every point related with Draupadi here, more rather than the Pandavas. And we could kind of, relate to them as husband and wife more, and lesser of, Draupadi, the queen, and Pandavas, they're leaving their titles behind, and we could see the person behind the title. The kudos to Chitra ma'am here. She just beautifully depicted it. So that's, I feel, is my personal fav moment, one of the fav moment of the book.
I absolutely agree. I mean, for me, personally, the whole situation with, say, Yudhishthir that she goes through, when she says something like, was he a saint
Absolutely.
or merely lacking in common sense? I was like, "Wait, this is such
And
a real moment. What woman has not thought this about the men
exactly.
in her life?" I really
And like
appreciated it.
thinking, thank you. And like thinking Yudhishthir the Great having this comment from Draupadi is like, some way it's fun also, some way it's like how raw and real it has been depicted. And just to add one more thing, I found the bond of Bhim and Draupadi very cute. It
I
was like
agree.
Bhim was ready to do anything for Draupadi, and like as I mentioned, leaving apart the titles behind, we could see the raw and real person. Like, kudos again to the writer. She depicted it so well. So yeah, that was my fave moment.
I 100%. I mean, the way the relationships are written, right? As you said, it's humans rather than the labels. And that is why we read fiction, yaar. Hum mythology nahi, we have come to this book because we want to see, like, human beings are very voyeuristic. Any place where there is something happening, we are like, I want to know what's happening there. We all have that desire to activate the gossip within us, and like, I need to know. And this book gives
Yeah,
us that. It
exactly.
gives us that. So pretty cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Denise, your favorite
Thank you.
moment with the book? Denise, are you there?
Hello, yeah. Hi, Binati. Sorry,
Fantastic. Are
I
please,
forgot
no
on mute
sorries.
myself. No, in fact, I chose this book was on two counts. One is the book cover, and usually when I'm reading certain books, sometimes it's not the content. Sometimes I get attracted to the book sleeves or book covers. So this was one of them. And I did get to visit Jaipur when I visited Jaipur this Jan, and I went to City Palace. So one of the book cover which had the gate, it reminded me of illusions. So it was one of those lovely moments. Sometimes when you feel you can recreate. I follow the author on Instagram, so there were pretty good insights in the book from Draupadi's point of view, and beautifully written. It's not like complex. Yes, human emotions were complex out there, but for the anytime reading, for the first time readers also, that book is very beautiful. So I would definitely recommend Palace of Illusions, because many of us have recommended that book to each of us, irrespective of the genre that we like. So yes,
100%.
Palace of Illusions. And she's written many books after that also, even before. Even the book on Sita, which she's written
Yes,
for some
she
of the
does
entire.
very good writing. Female character, feminist literature. I think she does very good feminist literature. Even if we move
Yes,
beyond the mythological characters, something like a Mistress of Spices, for example, it's
yes.
done very well. So I
Then there's
agree.
the Last Queen. I've read Last Queen, then Forest of Enchantment.
Yes,
Very beautiful.
beautiful
And
stories. I
yeah,
think perfect.
reading Indian authors gives you a different perspective. Like we have Kiran Desai and all. Then they have a different set of ideas when it comes to writing, but Divya has her own. She retells the story in her own way, but without having conflicts from the actual main story.
Agreed.
So subtly and beautifully written. So it's always going to be her.
I think this
Thank
is
you.
why we don't see a lot of angry backlash against her book, right? I mean, she's technically saying this. My personal favorite moment, right, is the things that she writes about Bhishma Pitama, which is at that point in time, I was extremely influenced by Stoicism, where you become a Stoic, you become disciplined, and you have this way of life. And then this is what Divya writes about Bhishma Pitama. Divakaruni writes about Bhishma Pitama, which is one couldn't depend
Yes.
on a man who plucked frailty and desire so easily out of his heart. How could he have
Yes.
compassion for the faults of others or understand their need? Keeping his word was more important to him than human life. And this line itself was telling me that Stoicism is very good to get your life back on track. But if I lead by it, I will become someone very, I suppose, non compassionate. I would have a Rome, but my Rome would be full of empty, desolate, sad people. And I really loved this gift that the book gave me, which is compassion. It's difficult to lead a compassionate life. It makes your life much more dramatic. But then, उसी में तो मज़ा है. So, I personally, for me, that paragraph was my favorite moment from the book, where you see a very, very beloved character who embodies discipline, who embodies honor, who embodies so many positive traits, I believe, have just this one thing questioned about them. And that to me was pretty mind boggling, as like I think 16 or 17. I'm not sure how old I was. Oh, I was young adjacent, right? A very young adjacent. So having something like that happen, I think it helps you develop a more questioning mindset. And in many ways, it keeps you from blind belief and leads you into critical, actual thought. So I think this book does that very well. It doesn't take you away from the scriptures, but then it also doesn't blind you with it, right? So I think that to me was one of my favorite moments. On to any other thoughts that either of you have, please feel free to unmute. Let's start with Ritika and then we'll come to you, Denise. Go ahead, Ritika.
Hey, so yeah, so I just want to add to what you said that as you said na that it doesn't blinds you with scriptures, neither takes you away. So it's I feel the midway. Like you get a beautiful blend of both the scriptures and the the fiction part, like as we all discussed how beautifully she portrays the characters and the human emotions. And like another thing, like talking about, I heard the mention of the last queen by the story of Rani Jindan. So like what I also read that, and what I was left after reading it was that the awe about the length and depth. Chitra ma'am went like in her last two books, like they were heavy with mythology and scriptures and all god stories, and then in the last queen it's all history and patriotism. So the awe I was left with about the length and breadth of research work she has done about because obviously when you are depicting a character, as we all agreed upon unanimously that she's a good feminist literature writer, so to portray a character you have to be very very into the skin with the writer, and not just the character but the surroundings, circumstance, like every minute detail she mentioned beautifully. So like I don't know. I can go on speaking volumes about how beautifully she writes, but I guess I need to stop here. So yeah.
Go ahead, Denise. Share your thoughts.
No, I second Ritika on the fact that she is a well-researched author also. I mean, beautifully, she's gone into depths in each of her books. If Palace of Illusion is one, then even Enchantment of Sita, it's like a diary, sometimes, as you all mentioned earlier, a woman is writing her feelings articulating all those words into those number of pages with a hardbound cover of soft, even in the soft copy. But she's too good. She's absolutely brilliant at what she does, and she's managed capturing my heart, at least when it comes to reading history, which and going back to Mahabharata or Ramayana, which we have seen in the early 80s, 90s. At least I grew up in the 90s, so when I was watching all that, I could recollect even the scene of Sita being abducted, and then there are many, many, many tales that we can actually speak. So thank you.
Namaste, everyone.
Namaste. Feel free to share your take. I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. Chitra? Chitra, I believe. Yes?
Yeah, my name is Chitra. Yeah.
Fantastic. What would you like to say about this book, Chitra?
Actually, I even don't know what's the point. I mean, going to discuss about. I just hearing what's going on.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Able to talk.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on this stage. As you said, Denise,
That's great.
yeah, Denise, what you said, no, I have a quote from the book for this, which is stories were important. They had to be understood and preserved for the future. So that we didn't make the same mistakes over and over. They make us realize we are not alone in our folly and our suffering. And I think that's it, right? The beauty of sharing a story without doing any moralizing, right? Just sharing a POV. Don't tell people how to feel, just tell them your side. Most of the time, empathy will win. People will empathize with your POV, and the way Chitra deals with that, with the characters that she picks, it's pretty cool. So I think we have come to the finito moment for the event. So thank you so much for joining us today. We will meet you hopefully on Tuesday or Thursday at 9 p.m. or whatever new time we come up with, because we'll have to change times because work is interfering massively. I'll let you guys know the book that we'll be discussing and the day that we'll be discussing it on pretty soon. But yes, we will be back next week discussing some other work of fiction in Reading Fiction on LinkedIn. Keep reading and see you guys next week. Bye.